As a university professor, I've had to read a lot of books to get where I am, but the top 11 books that have totally changed my life and have easily 10x'd my wealth are all right here. If you're like I was in high school or college, it took a lot to get me to actually read a book. But if somebody told me that you can make a substantial amount of money just by learning some of the things in these books, I'd pay attention. If you're looking to make a substantial amount of money, give this video a like and let's get to it. My name's Professor G and I'm an actual university professor. On this channel, I do all the research so that you don't have to. But what I'm gonna recommend is that you use my research as a starting point for you to figure out what's gonna be best for you in investing, in business, and in life. So here's book number 1. The first book on the list is called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto by Blair Enns. This book is probably the best book on personal selling that you're gonna find out there. Any of you out there that are doing a side hustle or starting a business that involves selling some type of service, whether that be managing social media or consulting services or even mowing a lawn, this book is huge on explaining how you can make it so that they're coming to you and asking, rather than you having to pitch them on what you're actually worth. Earned income is the fastest way for you to get that passive income later on and to be able to invest more money. This book will help you make hundreds, if not thousands more every month if you put it into practice. The next book is called Trillions and it's by Robin Wigglesworth. And that's an awesome last name, but even more so, this is an awesome book. There's not many books that I would suggest to everyone to read, literally everyone, but this one right here is one of my top ones for a reason. This is a pretty substantial book on investing and specifically index fund investing, but not just telling you why index fund investing is probably the best and easiest way for you to 10x that net worth. It also goes through the history of why index funds were even made and all of the statistics that you need to make you a believer that index funds are just the way to go. Warren Buffett says something like 95% of people should just be investing in index funds, and this book backs that up. It's also not a boring read like a lot of other financial books. This one's actually very fun. Next on my list is The Richest Man in Babylon. This was written by George Clason, and this is one of the oldest books that I have. As you can see, it's very thin, but it packs a punch. There's been over 4 million copies sold, and if you read it, you'll know why. This book has so much wisdom just on investing in general, but also dives into entrepreneurship, side hustles, and just life lessons. Again, it's very, very short, so it's a fun read, and it is written like a parable, like a story, rather than just number 1, do this, number 2, do this. Definitely recommend this book as soon as possible. The next book really needs no introduction. If you've been investing at all for any period of time, you've probably heard of this book, The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. This was one of the mentors of Warren Buffett, and this book is one of the first books and one of the best books on investing, specifically value investing and learning the psychology of investing. This one's a bit of a heavy read, as you can see. It also has a little more complicated terms and terminology, but I promise you, if you can get through this whole thing and really take in the information, you are going to be a much better investor and you're going to be able to weather the storm. Especially like right now with a down market and possible recession, this book really helps guide you through what we need to be doing. Next up is the book that actually got me into entrepreneurship in general. One of my favorite books, one of the top books on entrepreneurship, on investing. This book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you've been in the world of investing or real estate or anything of that nature, you've probably heard of this book. If you haven't read it, give it a read. This totally flipped my view on work and on making money and on what exactly to do as you get older. And I learned this from a young age. It's all about buying assets and not liabilities. And the older that I get, I see that this book is gold. All right, the next book on the list is actually very different than the rest of them in that it's the only book that I recommend on its subject. This one is called Bitcoin Evangelism, and it's written by Brian DeMint. Now, there are a lot of books out there on cryptocurrency, on Bitcoin, things of that nature, but none that go as in depth as this, and none that are as unbiased as this. This uses historical examples. This talks about economics, both micro and macro, and it rarely talks about Bitcoin as just a price or as an investment. It talks about it more as an ideology and how Bitcoin itself can solve some major problems. I don't know about you, but when I hear of something that can solve some problems, I also think of it as this is a great investment. One of my favorite chapters is chapter 13. He did a great job of providing short answers to common questions. Things like, why won't Bitcoin be like MySpace or Yahoo? Is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme? Can Bitcoin go to $0? The answer to these questions are very short and very solid for you to understand. He also provides not only his insights, but a bunch of other resources that you can then go to. Things like websites, podcasts, and YouTubers that you can go check out for more information. The next book is a very fun book called The Wealthy Gardner, and this one is written by John Saforic. This book is probably the easiest read out of all of them and reads like a fictional story. It's very similar to The Richest Man in Babylon, except that The Richest Man in Babylon is kind of written like a parable and like King James type version, whereas this is more updated and just written like a story. Not complicated, gets straight to the point, uses great illustrations that you'll remember in your brain and will help you when deciding what type of investment to partake in, and then also what to do with that money long term. Those of you that have been learning about money and learning about how to manage money and have been in the personal finance space for even any period of time have probably heard of the author of the next book, and that's Dave Ramsey with The Total Money Makeover. Now, I don't absolutely love everything that Dave Ramsey has to say, but I do respect a lot of what is in this book, and I know that it's helped a lot of people. If you're a beginner and you want to know what the best steps are to get started, a lot of my steps are very similar to Dave Ramsey's steps, because as you get started, you do need to get out of debt and you do need to build up some type of a savings so that you're safe if any type of market downturn happens, and so you don't have to pull your investments out so you can let them keep compounding. This book's also very, very good if you're in any type of debt, credit card debt, even student loans. His idea on the Debt Snowball is very, very solid, which just basically means that you pay off your smallest debt first, and then once you've paid that off, you now use that full payment to pay off the next biggest debt. And psychologically, when you start canceling out debts like that, makes you feel really good and you want to keep going. This is a good book altogether, very good book for those of you that are beginning. The next book here is by one of my favorite people, and that's Warren Buffett. He's definitely my idol in investing and just in the way that he lives. It's very simple. He doesn't go with anything flashy. He doesn't try to do anything super fast. And look where it's got him. He's one of the most respected investors ever to do it. And in this book, he just tells everything. These are the essays of Warren Buffett, and Lawrence Cunningham put all of those together into a nice solid package here. Warren Buffett writes essays at the end of the year talking about what his company did, what he thinks good investments are, why he thinks that way. He talks about the economy and what's happening. It's just very cool to see over the years what things stay the same, what things change, and just to see his mindset. If you can start to learn how brilliant people like this think, and you can start putting that into practice, that's going to make you a very sound investor. It's also going to make you feel better about your investments and why you're doing it. Can't recommend this book enough. But this book is a little bit tougher. It's not for beginners, absolute beginners. I would say this is more in the middle out of all of these books as far as rigor, but read it when you can. Next book on the list is Dollar and Cents. And this one was written by Dan Ariely and Jeff Kreisler. This is definitely one of the books that I'd recommend if you are a beginner. And I do recommend that you read this whole entire book before you start investing. It'll help you start looking at money in a whole different way. It'll also help you to find more money just in your everyday life. And it's not as simple or dumb as some of these people that are saying, just stop buying a latte and you'll have $5 more. Well, yeah, that is true, but there are other practical things that we don't even know that we're doing, and we're losing money because of it. This book teaches you how to think, how to act, and how to make it so that you have more money without actually having to go earn more money. One of my favorite topics in this book talks about why we're okay with spending $5 on a soda if we're on vacation, but if we go into the grocery store on a regular day, we wouldn't spend over $1 on that same soda. Very interesting, very practical. Get this one. The last book here is by Tony Robbins, and this one is called Money, Master the Game. This is a long read. This is packed full of so much stuff. And what he did is very similar to the Warren Buffett book where they compiled a bunch of things and put it together as one book. This is compiled of a bunch of investors and economic professors to have their view on what the best way to invest is long term. You're going to get conflicting views. You're going to get a bunch of different types of views rather than just one person, but you're also going to get a lot of step-by-step and how to. This one is one that I totally recommend that you actually buy the hard copy and just have it, because it's one that you can read all the way through and then just know if I need to know about annuities or what was that portfolio style that Ray Dalio was talking about, you can flip back to it and you can go step by step. A lot of the things in here teach you that things change when you have different amounts of money or a family versus not having a family or different age groups. And so you do different things. You don't just stay the same and then just let it sit forever. This one really shows that achieving financial freedom isn't complicated, but there are a couple of direct ways that can help you get there. And I would say it's not for beginners, but it's not also the most advanced in the whole world. It's right in the middle, but it is packed full of value. These are my top 11. They've definitely helped me make over 7 figures since the time of reading them. And I don't tell people exactly what to do a lot of the time, but I do think it would be a good idea for you to read these. I'd love to know your favorite books on investing and entrepreneurship. Put them down in the comment section below and let me know which of these you've already read and what you think.